That's the Black Ice Audio Aries. $2,800 plus or minus. And I already started this review. I did 6 minutes of it and then I stopped because I didn't get to the point. And I feel like my videos are long and I want to get you guys to the point of this hybrid tube amp DAC Wi-Fi preamp thing. I've had it on my desk now for weeks, months. And when I'm reviewing a headphone, if I get a new headphone, like here's the Harmonic Dyne Zeus Elite. All these will be linked in the description, by the way. There's and including the mouse pad. There's a reason I wasn't using this to assess a new headphone. This is not for assessing headphones. It's for fixing headphones. All tube amps. You put on a tube amp, usually you do that because you already know what a headphone can do on a solid state, a clean linear solid state, and you want to add some tube sound to it. So you pop it in a tube amp. And then you have the two options. This takes what a tube amp does, gives you a solid state output, which I don't list the rated power, but I've been told it's going to be a lot, like 2 digits power. And this is strictly a headphone amp. This is not a speaker amp. But what this is going to do is let you plug in a headphone you know, or in the case of me, a headphone you don't like. This is the Shure 1540, purchased simply because it's beautifully built and light and comfy. I hate the way this sounds. If we wanted to fix how this headphone sounds, or if you're bored with all your headphones you've got lined up, I got all those headphones lined up, I know all of them, but I wonder what their capabilities are. So we would plug it in, we would turn the unit on, we'd pick our input, which we'll look at the back, check the timestamps to see when I look at the back and the front. And we would then be able to turn the volume up. Is music playing? Yes, it is. Is the coax digital not plugged in? Hold on. Oh, it is going. Okay. It's quiet. So we need more gain. So gain switch. Volume. Balance. Here's the first indicator that this is not a normal amplifier. The balance knob has no detent, which means every time you turn this thing on or plug in a headphone, you're going to be, if you're like me, you're going to immediately start fishing for the center. Because you have to, because there's no like, we'll just make the balance middle. It doesn't, it just, you have a floating balance. So, okay, you got to get over that. That's a fear. As an audiophile who's like, nope, I plugged it in, up, I hear a slight channel imbalance, something's wrong. No, you plug in your headphone to this Aries, and then you turn the balance knob until you're happy and you stop. You're going to find with this unit, it's all about turning knobs until you're happy, and then you stop. Can you handle that? Okay, good. Because we have some more knobs. I'm going to work down the front of this, and then I'll discuss other parts of it, and the rear, and the inputs, and the analogs, and the digital, and the Wi-Fi. So we've put on our headphones. In fact, I'm gonna put on my headphones. Get my gains on. There's 2 gain settings, well, 3 gain settings. There's middle, down, and up. Now, for some reason, going down, even though it says negative, kind of sounds louder than the middle, and then the top is more for sure. So I'm going up. All right, we've got our volume set. We're gonna bounce this left and right. Right about there. It's pretty close to vertical. You got to be cool with that. OCD people got to be cool with that. Now we're going to look at this switch. This switch is the surround bypass switch. If you've seen my other reviews of Black Ice Audio, they make units that are tube driven, that all they do is change the way the sound perspective is. Like, go to an audio show and everyone's like, my cable does this, or my DAC is $50,000 and does that. Fuck you. Black Ice makes a knob for $550 that you plug in, and literally headphones and speakers can go, ooh, ooh, ooh. Like it completely moves where the sound is. Now this is specifically for headphones, so it's a little more gentle. If you turn the switch up, that means it's on. Even though it says bypass, so you would think that bypass on would be that, but down is bypass, so that's off. So surround up. And it's just gently moving the sound like trapdoors. It's like I want it to be more focused. Surround narrow, normal-ish, surround wider. Just enough. I actually notice it way more in IEMs and certain IEMs than I do with like these headphones. But these headphones, I don't like them, so we're gonna crank that shit to maximum. To the right of that, you have a 6-position switch called sub bass. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. At level 6, you have an 18 decibel boost of sub bass. In case you need it. So we're going to take this to, well, 1 is default, so that's no added. Then it's 2, we're going to go to 3. I don't know where that lands. We're going to 3. Kay is astonished by this. So now I've got surround added and sub bass added and the balance pretty close. Now we get to the real, like, hey, I want to fuck with it sort of thing. You get 2 knobs, a left channel knob and a right channel knob, and then 2 switches, a left channel switch and a right channel switch, and then the gain switch in the middle. We know what gain does, that's basic. The switches are slope, and the knobs are high EQ for each channel. If you have hearing impairments, like if my father was like, I want a headphone amp, and he's got, you know, worse hearing in his right ear than his left, or the frequency response is different, or you just want to be the tweakiest tweaker that's ever tweaked on an amplifier, you can then drop all the treble, and it's all the treble, out of the left and right, individually, change the slope into 3 different positions of how, because the cutoff, the slope of the curve is like a gentle slope, a steep slope, or a really mild slope. So you get to change the slope you're cutting off and then adjust completely analog. I can't tell you how damaging these are to my psyche, not for the headphones, but for like every headphone I plug into this and I'm listening to it and these are vertical, I'm like, but what if they had more detail? Just 1 o'clock instead of 12. And all of a sudden it's like, yeah. And then I get used to the headphone like that. And I'm like, oh no, because then everything else sounds dull. And there are some headphones that are just a little bit too sharp, and you would turn the thing down, you know, wherever you want it. Try the different slopes. It's a fiddler's fucking toolbox. It's what's it called? Whose box is that? Who's that bitch that takes you to hell? Who's that? Pandora. It's Pandora's box. It's Pandora's audio box. That might even be the title of this, because that hopefully is the end of the adjustments. So now I've got these Shure headphones, which I don't like, that have better bass, soundstage is better, just moved a little bit out, and then I'm just like, you know what? I just want them to be a little bit more exciting in the treble. Like, now this is a terrible song. I hate the White Stripes. I have like 3 White Stripes songs that are great, but I have the Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, just interlude. This unit is designed to take a headphone that you know, maybe love, maybe hate, and to just beat it into submission. And you know what I want? Because bass doesn't need to be left and right. That should be independent. That should be individual. So that's fine. That's mono. Well, it doesn't make the bass mono, but it's like 1 control. But the treble being individualized for each ear, your best bet is to close your eyes. Plug in either a headphone, or in my case an IEM. You can get the new JoJo collab. It's the new JoJo collab. Look at that cable. How can you get a cable as nice for $50 with an IEM attached? And just fuck with it. It's pure, unadulterated. This is Black Ice Audio, which, by the way, you can get the vinyl wrap black metal or the wood veneer, real wood veneer wrapped black metal in 3 different colored woods, which they sent me in the wood. And it's kind of weird because you're like, wait, that isn't wood because it's not thick enough to be wood, but it's legit wood veneer. So, I mean, You don't see companies doing that. I actually really like the Black Ice Audio logo with the Jim Fosgate thing. Jim Fosgate, by the way, go to the link for the Black Ice Audio and read up about him. Because that man, like, I can't even, like, hey, ever heard about, like, Dolby surround sound stuff? Yeah, that's him. The fact that you could do all these things with no digital at all. Again, the only digital board is for the Wi-Fi. Nothing else here is digital. The relays are just analog clicks. And everything in here, you've got the tube for the preamp. You've got the DAC. I'm assuming this is for the coming off the power to run the DAC. And then you get to feed. All right, we got to turn this around. I think I've gotten across, like, the holy fuckitude of this thing. And I apologize if I want to put this on their website. There'll be a censored. There won't be a censored version. I'm Zeos. Hi. We're doing things on anime waifu mouse pads. Oh, Jesus. The front, by the way, glass. Metal knobs, which you can remove, which once you do, you better make sure you put them back on in the correct thing. I find that some of them need to be pulled out just a smidgen. That's an actual measurement. Because they're metal and they will hit the glass and you can just feel it a little bit. It's binding, I'll just pull it out. But you could replace the knobs if you want to be that guy. So let's look at the back now. Now that we've seen the entirety of the front. Oh, Jesus. I had turned this earlier, and it worked. I don't know if it's going to behave as well this time. Okay, that's as far as I'm willing to go before it explodes. 3 RCA inputs. It's all RCA. There's no balanced. I'm okay with that. The unit would be massive. 3 RCA inputs. I'm actually feeding the first input from a Gishelli Labs JNOG down there. Then there's 2 and 3. You have a DAC output. I'm using these KLE World's Best cables to feed this to the Rebel amp, which is now on sale for $600. So the DAC, because you're buying a $2,800 unit, and it's got a DAC in it, I want to be able to use the DAC. Just give me the DAC, and it doesn't matter what the volume pot's doing. The Rebel amp, currently running my NDH 30s. So I can verify the DAC sounds fucking good. Well, it sounds as good as any other DAC should sound. It doesn't have any faults or flaws or any glaring problems. So that's great. You get an extra DAC output when you have this unit in your system. Then you have the line output, which is controlled. It should be the pre-output, but it is the line output. So all that shit that's happening in the front of this, you can line out to another amp. In this case, I'm using the Drop plus SMSL HO150X. Maybe you're using a set of studio monitors, maybe, where you can adjust the treble and sub bass individually. Just a thought. Just a thought. You might line this out into something that's maybe not small and headphoney, but big and insanity driven. Like, I don't know, the Image 2s I have in the back room. Yeah, so that's nice. Here's where the Wi-Fi antenna goes. I haven't hooked this unit up to Wi-Fi, did their previous unit up to Wi-Fi, and they have they use an application that's used in a couple different pieces of equipment, so you don't have to worry about a small shop making things work. The board is pretty generic, and it works as a DLNA or AirPlay server, so you could just, if you're, this is the weirdest combination of, like, I would not expect this to have Wi-Fi capabilities. It's made by some guys in their garage, and it's using these old school analog techniques, and they're doing all this funky shit. And then it's like, by the way, it has Wi-Fi. And I'm like, oh, okay, it does. Yeah, and then you can go and just get the app, and it'll just integrate all the basic standard stuff. I don't have that hooked up right now because it's too much. Then you have underneath here, you've got your digital inputs. You have 3 analog inputs, 2 analog outputs, and 4, if you don't count the Wi-Fi, 4 digital inputs as well. Toslink 1, Toslink 2, which is fiber optic, and then coaxial digital, which is what I'm using, and then a USB-C, not even an a C. So that's like, hey, it's 2023. Everything should be USB-C. And the best part about Black Ice Audio is if you wanted something like, if you wanted to buy this and you got on the phone with them or got in an email chain, you could ask them to change that. Maybe, I don't know if they'll change the actual one on the board, but a lot of times they'll change where the connectors are, what your connectors you're plugging into. Do you need me to tweak the gain? They'll work with you on something like this. So I'm using the digital input to use a DAC. I'm feeding that DAC out to this so I can listen to headphones off that. And then I've got the other DAC here, because one of the issues I have to talk about because I've had this thing for months now, and it was like it's a tube unit, so I like to turn those off so they're not just burning tubes all night. But they told me you don't have to because it's not, these aren't powered, they're not even getting hot. It's been on for hours. They're not even getting like more than just like, oh, I feel it's on. I feel it's on. So you can let this run and run. And they're actually going to send me tubes to swap. I might do a second video because the absurdity of having this be, okay, it's a solid state amp, probably in the, I think they said between 9 and 13. Hold on, phone call. Phone call, audio problem from New York. Yes, you could leave the unit on all the time. And there's a reason for that besides like you want the tubes to be warm when you're doing things and you don't want to have to warm them up for 30 minutes. The input will reset. When you come over here, I have it currently on coaxial digital. If I turn it off, which by the way is setting this switch to the middle, turning it to the bottom turns the unit on but leaves the LEDs off for people who like to watch music in the dark or listen to music in the dark. I've actually tried to do that. It's so many LEDs and shit. It's a nice feature. But when you turn it back on, it resets the whole unit. Analog closes, it comes back on. So you're back on input 1, analog input 1. So if you want to go, you got to be like, now we're back in coaxial digital. So if you turn it off, you're going to have to reset what input you're using. That's another reason I had the RCAs in input 1, because I just didn't want to have to do that. I just wanted it to just turn on and be there. So now it's clicked, we're back on, we can play music out of, well here, let's just steal something else. NDH30s. NDH30s are great headphones and I don't think they need any help. I'm a punch. This is what it's like. Okay, where was I? Was I doing a review? I usually mute my phone and it was muted, but I guess audio problems come through the mute. So yeah, the only issue I've had with this, I had the first unit was like a beta unit they sent me and it blew a couple fuses and they wanted it back to analyze it because apparently that's never happened. So this is a second unit, but it's been working flawlessly. And now swapping tubes apparently makes huge differences. I'm not sure if they're talking about the preamp tube or the DAC tube, but I mean, if you know anything about tube amps, is that they're only as good as the tubes you put in them. Now these are Tungsol, made in Russia, which I don't know how available that's going to be, but these are 6SN7s, and they're the same tube. So if you have 6SN7s and you're a tube swapper, feel free to grab one of these, plop it in either one and see what happens. Because it will apparently, I've gotten used to the sound of this, and he's gonna send me like a collection of different tubes and I'm gonna try out just, actually, do I have a 6SN7 that I could pop in here? Where's my, not right now. I'm not doing that now, but I want to know. Because if you buy this unit, so here's the end of the video, because I wanted to spend, I'm sorry, that's much better. You're buying this unit because you absolutely are done. This is I have fucking finished unit. I want to call it an amplifier. It's not. I want to call it a DAC. It's not. It's not a tube pre. It's so many things. In fact, the website, call it, when you go to it, the new Aries headphone amplifier DAC Wi-Fi streamer preamp. That's the name of it. You could call it the Aries, but no one knows what you're talking about. So you got to say it's the Aries headphone amplifier DAC Wi-Fi streamer preamp. And you can see all the pretty pictures and explains and it goes through and you see all these to be determined rated output power. That's how new this is. I actually saw this like a super early sneak preview at Capital Audio Fest in November. It's currently July. And they left it in my room because they trusted me. And it plugged everything into it. And it had some other weirder quirks then that they've thankfully vacuumed out. By the way, the 110, 220 switch is internally right there. In fact, that's probably a 110 and I shouldn't be touching it. Don't run an amplifier with the casing off for electrocution reasons. I'm doing this because it'd be real boring to just look at a black box. I'm enamored by the complexity and yet simplicity. Like, where's the digital? There is none. There's none of the digital. It's all doing its own thing. in the analog realm. All these knobs and switches and buttons and dials. It's like, I'm fucking impressed with it. What else? Can I read you any specs? It consumes 30 watts of power. I'll give you that much. So it is an actual unit. It weighs 14 pounds out of the box, and it uses the new Lucid Tube DAC. Like, and that's another thing. Is this the first tube DAC I've ever gotten? Because running the Rebel amp off a tube DAC, I said it sounds clean and normal, but I need to get another amplifier that has 2 inputs and then run a actual normal DAC and then compare it to the Lucid Tube DAC, because the Rebel amp on one set of headphones through this is like, is there something special and different? Because I've always kind of wanted a tube DAC, not a tube preamp. Keep that in mind. This is the preamp section for the headphones and the line out. This is a tube DAC completely, because real quick, I know this video is already too long. At least you got a nice desk mat. A DAC has to amplify things, but it isn't an amp. A DAC has to go from a signal that is digital to a little tiny analog voltage, just enough to put through an RCA cable. So that little amplifier that makes it go from nothingness into a little thing, you can make that a tube amp. A tube amp. So you're getting the 2 1/4 volts for RCA through a tube now. So you can actually flavor that. That's why that's why I never plugged a headphone into this to assess it. Oh, I got this brand new headphone. If I got a brand new headphone and plugged it into the Aries, I would trust about 30% of it when I plugged into this is like, okay, this is probably what it sounds like for everyone else. And then I would fall on the floor and have a goddamn seizure from the orgasmic sound. Because I'm like, I would know to at least keep the sub bass all the way down. And I could kind of get the balance right. But then you start messing with these high-low, these treble, and it's like, you don't know if this is perfect, or if this is perfect, or maybe this is perfect. And then the slope switch, you can't disable these. They're always hot. You can disable the surround, you can get the balance close, but all these other settings, they're live. They're alive all the time. So if you have a headphone and you've heard it on every amp and DAC combination and tube amp on the planet, you haven't heard it on the Aries. And then you combine that with, it's got a tube DAC that you've not heard it on a tube DAC. Then you've not heard it on the Aries. Then you've not heard it on the tube DAC in the Aries, outputting to an amplifier you already know with all that stuff. And it's like, this was an easy review. Because when you ask me what does it sound like, that doesn't matter. This doesn't have a sound. This takes the signal that's coming from Weird Al, Jackson Park Express, and it does things to it that are going to vary per the impedance of the headphone, are going to vary by the tubes you've got in it, are going to vary if just in every aspect of it. I guarantee you if I swapped anything else, I wouldn't even understand what's going on. Here, I'll put this. We'll just go back to the tube DAC. Who here hates Weird Al? I got something against people who hate Weird Al. The man's a genius. I like your boobs. Link to this in the description. I just stare at it now because I'm like, where could I put this? Where in my life? This would have to go up on my office desk. It couldn't stay here. It has no purpose anywhere near my review desk. The remaining time it's going to be here. Because I would never assess a headphone on it. The only thing I could do is take a headphone that I already know and fuck with it. It's a fucker. I don't think see if they'll actually make the glass just say fucker, because that's what it does. It takes your good, great, or meh headphones and good, great, and meh music, and you can filter it and just fuck with it. And this is the only thing I've ever seen that can do it to this extent. So I even have the slopes are different on the left and right. So it's just like my brain. Oh God, my brain. Anyway, I'm done. You're done. The Aries is done. Kay's done, and the mousepad lady is done. I don't know what she's from. She's from something. Thank you to Black Ice for trusting me with this. I'm sure they've worked in this thing for literally years, and my weird words and cursing and obligatory things have just... I hope I've done it good. Anyway, Patreon subscribe to support this channel. See reviews early, participate in yard sales, and loss of sound demos. And all sound demos are now available on only those platforms. $10 a month. Get you in the private behind-the-scenes Telegram chat where you can ask me questions directly. Join the Lifetime Swap Meet channel. So once you're in the $10 chat on Telegram, you then get into a Swap Meet channel where you can buy, sell, and trade gear. And then, so you can sell a bunch of stuff to buy the Aries. And then don't forget to check out Hi-Fi Guides, the Hi-Fi Guides forum, and check out any sponsor links that are down below. And holy crap, check out my social medias too, because those things, I do things on like Instagram and Twitter. And my battery's dying. I could see that because I'm not holding the camera. But yeah, no, this is, this thing is, look at the glass. Look at the glass. Oh, Jesus. This is one of those units that's like, holy crap, you actually made this? No big company would okay this because it's too wild. I love that it's too wild. I hope you love it too. See ya.